got the camera moved here, and we'll just start at the end. We'll show you removal of this. Pretty straightforward. It's got 2 screws here. One here, and the unit slides up and out. Pull those screws off. Okay, and here is the unit. We'll get some close-ups of this also. But as we look in here, as you can see, we got a bulb at the bottom. And this is your coil and the various switches and whatnot. Pretty straightforward. But the main thing is with these United, this is a plastic reel. The numbers are extremely fragile. You have to be really careful what you clean these things with. So yeah, unless you're really good at painting or cutting out vinyl letters or doing something, you got to be really careful with these. They also scratch easily. Probably pretty sure in the overview video you saw where the unit here, which is the frames unit, that's got some scratches on it from it hitting the glass or something. But yeah, they're very delicate. And yeah, we'll switch the camera and we'll tear it apart. The reel is held on with these 3 screws. We also have a hairpin clip, or a Jesus clip, as some people may call it, because that's what I was told was one of the names. Because if you take it off improperly, it goes flying and you start saying some words. Let me grab a small needle nose pliers and we'll get that off. Here's what I like to use. These are Xuron, Xuron. There are lots of other small ones here, of course. A couple different ways to do this. You can pull at the top of the small pin here, or you can gently push up from the bottom and use your thumb here to catch the clip as it comes up. See how this works. Rotate it around here. Get a good handle on it. There it goes. Okay. And there's the part. Put that in the bucket. It is sticky. There's also a washer here. Pull that out. Okay, we got 3 screws here. Carefully supporting this. These are pretty fragile. You can super glue them if they're cracked, which I did on that other older United that I did. But these are just screwed into the center part here. Okay, and if you have a pile of screws left over, here's what those screws look like. Kind of it's a self-tapping type of a screw. And there is a key for this on the center hub. It's a small round peg. As we take it off, you see the hole here. So this is the reel. Just look at how filthy that is on the inside, just all the dust. I'm not even going to rub it. But these will clean up great. We'll use, I don't know what I'm going to use. Might just try some water. I'm just not sure what I'm going to use, because anything strong enough to take off nicotine or whatnot will definitely wipe these numbers right off. And you got to be really careful. Okay, here's the heart of the United score reel assembly. On this one we got a bulb, and as you can see here, it's quite loose. They use looks like a foam block in here is originally used. This is the first time I've looked at these. The other shuffle alley I worked on did not have the light up score reels, which will be kind of fun. So it looks like they've got some sort of foam which has gotten rock hard here. The foam would help absorb the shock from the score reels bouncing around, so I'll probably do something with foam on when I put these back together. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, but pull this out. That is another 55 bulb. This is one of the, well, may not be original for this machine, but it is a GE 55 bulb. Put that in our light bucket back here. All right, as we're looking at the assembly here. Okay. This piece lifts straight out. This is the cam assembly. It can only go in one way. These aren't too bad, which is good and bad. It means they haven't been lubricated, but also means they're not full of lubricant. So, you know, they are what they are. These will clean up great. You can use this is like a nylon type of a material. You can use a pretty harsh solvent on this and they will clean up really good. Okay, then we got the coil here, plunger, this other lever. Surprisingly, it doesn't work too bad. And this is the pivot that gets really stuck on these. I'm just going to try to move this by hand here. We got a switch up top here. Oh, it moves, but it's slow. Takes quite a bit of effort to move it, but it's not frozen. One thing you can do on these to get these off is you heat the center pin with a soldering iron, and that will loosen up the goo and she'll pull right off. Okay, I will take off the coil stop next. It's got 2 screws on it. And this uses a much shorter screw with a star washer that's part of it. It's not a self-tapping screw. So that's how you can identify that one. Count yourself lucky if nobody's been into your score reels before. So then hopefully all the hardware will be still correct. Okay, we'll pull out the coil stop, and this also gives you kind of an indication to how hard the game has been used. This is a player 1 score reel I'm working on here, so it's going to have more wear than the others, but the coil stop is still pretty good. And this is a very common coil stop in the pinball world, not used right now of course, but if it was totally mashed up and you wanted to replace it, you certainly could. But what I'll do is I will take the best, nicest parts, I'll put them in player 1, and then the next nicest parts will go in player 2 and go down the line, and player 6 will have the most worn parts in it because that one gets used the least. We'll pull the coil out here. This has a metal coil sleeve which is not replaceable. You can run a towel through there and clean it. It's not critical to its operation. Alright, now this coil is not secured very well here. Since I'm taking everything apart, what I'm going to do so this doesn't unravel is I will pull the plunger out. You can also look at that. That's really not mashed that much. It's not bad at all. So it's good condition, which is great. I'm going to set this back in and get that coil stop back in here. And we'll secure it with a screw. I could unsolder the coil and set it aside, and that would work fine. But well, we're kind of cross-threading this screw here. Try another hole. Plus, it's also a very short screw. Maybe it wasn't cross-threading. It might have bottomed out all the way. Since I'm not really going to soak these screws for the coil stop in the ultrasonic cleaner, we'll just put them both back in. And now that I think about it, yeah, I'm not going to go to the trouble of unsoldering these wires at this time. It's a lot of extra work, and I can clean these couple of shafts with some rubbing alcohol or stronger cleaner. Get those clean. To get this lever out, I'm going to have to remove this switch To get this assembly out, let's check it out. We got another hairpin here. This one is copper colored. And for this one, since we got a lot of room beneath it, I'm going to stick the pliers right in the center here. So this one is a copper color, so that's how you can denote that it goes there. Again, not a big deal. They look pretty much the same. Okay. Well, all right, so I brought this piece with it, which is fine. We'll take it apart though. So here's this nylon piece. This will clean up really great with some good solvent. Got a spring here. We'll just unhook it from the end. The open end goes here. And we got a closed end. We'll just wiggle it around here and she'll pop off. There's the spring that goes for that lever. And all we got left is the very troublesome, it's like a lever that prevents the score wheel from going backwards. If the lever is pulled away like this one, it's so gummy the spring can't even keep it down here. What would happen is this score wheel would ratchet and it wouldn't go anywhere because it couldn't go forward and it would just sort of oscillate back and forth a little bit. So we want to get this off. To do that, we need to pull off this switch. 2 flathead screws. I'm removing both screws at a similar time. I don't need to take them both off. I don't need to take one off fully before I take the other one off. Got some pretty short wires on here. I'm going to pull the screws off with the metal reinforcement plate. This switch stack is going to stay together. I'm just testing it here. It'll stay together just fine. So we'll leave that. Okay, we'll just gently pull this out of the way. And then we have another hairpin type of a clip. I've got enough room again to put my pliers right in the top, which I'm going to do. I'm going to wiggle it back and forth. Okay, to identify this one, we've got a larger bottom end. So it's meant to fit around a larger pin, shall we say, or shaft. It's also copper colored. Now to get this piece off, since I have some movement here, I should be able to walk this off pretty easily. So I'll reduce the tension on it. We'll take this spring off. And here's where the spring is. There's a metal tab right above the coil where that spring is anchored. We'll pull that off as well because I will clean the spring in the ultrasonic cleaner. And there's the spring. And then all we got left here is this pawl. And what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the pliers here. I'll gently twist it back and forth and I'll pull up a little bit and it should walk right off. Take a look here, see if I can do this. I'm using the wrong set of pliers for this, but it's coming off. We'll tack it from the side here. Or we'll put the pliers here. That should work. Okay, not putting much force on it at all. It's coming off quite easily. All right, there we go. This is the pawl that prevents the reel from going backwards. Here it is right here. What causes the gumminess on here to seize up is paraffin and lubricant. So you want to use a lubricant that doesn't have any paraffin. My recommendation is 3-in-1 oil that's for electric motors. It's very important that you use that versus a 3-in-1 household oil. We'll show you a picture of that later when I put everything back together. But pretty much got the main parts out for cleaning. I still got to do something with this light socket, but I'll tackle that one later. And I've got to clean up the shafts here, get all the old lubricant out. That's very important. Be great to drop this whole thing into the ultrasonic cleaner, but it's an awful lot of wires to unsolder just to drop it in the ultrasonic cleaner and have this guy floating around on my bench or on my workspace here, getting untangled, which would be really bad. So, all in all, not too bad for list of parts here. Not too many per reel. And we got this, and see, 4 reels per player, 6 players, 24 reels, plus we got the frame reel, and then we got the player up reel, so 26 reels total.